In Walmart's Who Newville, joy started to grow. For online-only savings sure to steal the show. Tech treats and toys so dazzling and new. Walmart Cyber Monday deal soon ready for you. It's online only with very little time to spare. December 1st will soon be here, so be sure to be there. The Who's are prepared. Are you ready too? A day packed with savings. Amazing! Who knew? Subject to availability, terms and fees apply.
No one should have to choose between their own safety and their pets. But nearly half of domestic abuse survivors delay leaving because they can't bring their pets with them. Purina is helping to create more pet-friendly domestic violence shelters through the Purple Leash Project, so survivors and their pets can escape and heal together. Visit Purina.com/purple to learn more.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome, folks. This is the More Money Show. Thank you so much for joining. I hope everyone had a Thanksgiving weekend. A lot to talk about on the show today. I want to go over the affordability issue. I want to talk about why healthcare is so expensive, some alternatives to our crazy Social Security system, how we can balance the budget, all the things that matter in terms of you're making more money. We love to talk about politics. We love to talk about finance. We love to talk about how you can make more money, investment accounts. And I'm going to start with this story about NVIDIA. It is the most astonishing story of economic success. You all know NVIDIA is one of the what we call the fabulous 7 companies. They are now, according to the Wall Street Journal, worth $1 trillion. One company is worth $5 trillion, which is more than most entire nations have. And it shows what we can do with our technological prowess in this country. And I'm going to give you some statistics that I think will amaze you. So NVIDIA has a $5 trillion market cap valuation. They have 36,000 employees. That's a big company, right? 36,000 employees. They have 80% of employees are part of their ESOP plan. So in other words, they own stock in the company. And that means, according to some of my rough math, and this was back of the envelope, so I may be off by 10, 20, 25%, but you're gonna see that these numbers are sort of spectacular. So that means that this one company, NVIDIA, and I would include other of the Magnificent Seven too in the same category, like Apple, Amazon, Microsoft, Tesla, Google. But in this case, it's NVIDIA with 14,000. They have 14,000 employees. With 14,000 employees have over $25 million. So not only has this company created jobs, not only is it creating incredible products for the future, not only has it made America number one, but because it has become so economically successful, 14,000 employees who are lucky enough to get a job early with NVIDIA now have $25 million in their accounts. So that is spectacular. That is capitalism. How do you get rich? Through hard work and through ownership. And my advice to young people is get a job early, invest that money early, start a business if you can. And, 2 out of 3 businesses fail, but the ones that succeed tend to do very well. And you want to get rich, you have to own things. And that's why later in the show, I'm going to be talking to Steve Forbes about how about letting every American in the country, every American worker become an owner of companies by putting their Social Security dollars into a personal account that they own. So I wanted to give you some numbers that we just ran at Unleash Prosperity. And by the way, if you're not getting our Unleash Prosperity hotline, why not? Why aren't you getting it? It is free. It costs nothing to get the hotline. It is very popular. It goes out to 150 to 200,000 people every day. And it is something you can read in 5 or 10 minutes every morning. And it's just little items on what's going on with the economy, what's going on, politics. And people love it. And I think you'll love it too. So just go to unleashprosperity.com, click on hotline, sign up for it. If you like it, which I think you will, we'll just keep sending it to you every morning for free. Did I mention it's free? And if you don't like it, you could just unsubscribe, but I think you will. And one of the items we have as a preview to the Monday hotline is what how long will it take for the Dow Jones Industrial Average to reach certain milestones? Now, to give you a sense of the milestones of the past, if you go back to around 1982, which is 44 years ago, the Dow Jones Industrial Average was roughly at 1,000. 1,000. So hold that point in mind. 1,000 in 1982, and here we are 45 years later or so, and the Dow Jones Industrial Average is at 47,000. So this has been a spectacular period for growth of equities. The value of American companies explodes. By the way, over the same time period, Europe's stock market has only gone up a fraction of how much the U.S. stock market has gone up, and Europe has basically been flatlined over that period. They just have not made much progress at all with their businesses, where ours have exploded. And I would submit to you the reason we are such a wealthy country, the reason why we have 7 companies that are worth more than every other country in the world individually combined. In other words, you take the second richest country like China, their net worth is not as large as our 7 large companies. So it shows how we are dominating in this new century called the 21st century. But in any case, so the question would be, when will we hit Dow 50,000 at the pace that we're on? In other words, if we keep the annual growth rate after inflation of 6.7%, we will hit Dow 50,000 in 2026, next year. So Dow 50 is right around the corner. And by the way, I may be wrong about that. We may hit Dow 50,000 before the end of this year, but if the current path continues, it'll be sometimes mid-2027 we'll hit Dow 50,000. So then the question is, how long will it take at the current pace of growth till we reach Dow 100,000? And that number is 2037. It's only 11 or 12 years away, we go to Dow 100,000. Now, here's what's really amazing. By 2062, which is, let's say, less than 40 years from now, we'll have Dow 500,000. It'll be 10 times greater than today. And this is after adjusting inflation. And by the year 2073, I don't know how many of us are going to be still alive in 2073, unless you're, 10 years old or 20 years old. You probably won't be. But we will hit Dow 1 million. And that's adjusted for inflation. So these numbers are incredible. And one of my, few really wise pieces of investment advice is get in the market and stay there. It was Albert Einstein. Many of you who listen to the show over the years know I say this all the time. Albert Einstein said the most powerful force in the universe is compound interest. And the compounding effect of owning things over not 1 year, not 2 years, but not 5 years, not 10 years, but 20, 25, 30 years means you just have more and more and more and more money. And that's what we need to do for everyone in the society. We need everyone, every worker needs to be in the market. We should have a nation of pension. Every single American worker who was born before 1960 should have at least $1 or $2 million in their retirement account. But a lot of people don't, because that money went to Social Security and it screwed over young people. So let's stop screwing over our young people and get that money into the stock market where it belongs, because it's not risky. It is a good investment for everyone. The next point I wanted to make for you all is having to do with this kind of very weird notion by a lot of young people that it's the kind of what I call woe is me. Oh my gosh, things are so terrible in America, and why does it have to be this way? And why do I have to be alive now when things are going so terrible? What are they talking about? What are these young people talking about? This is the single best time in the history of the world to be alive right now. There's no time in history where people were materially better off than they are today. Nothing else even comes close. And so for these young people to be whining, oh, things are going in the wrong direction, I really don't understand what they're talking about. Look, are there problems? Of course there are problems. Yes, housing is too expensive. Yes, healthcare is too expensive. But my God, I mean, if you look at compare now with 40 years ago, let's talk about healthcare. 40 years ago versus today, Today, if you get a cancer diagnosis, you're 4 times more likely to survive than if you got a cancer diagnosis 40 years ago. It's incredible, the progress we're making. So why are people so angry about how things are going? Got a great show planned for today. Stick with us, folks. This is The More Money Show.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's easy to get stuck reaching for the same familiar fruits and vegetables, even when you know a colorful variety is key. Balance of Nature's fruits and veggie supplements don't replace fruits and vegetables, but it makes it easy to add more variety to what you already eat. With 31 ingredients that are whole fruits and vegetables, switching it up is easy because we've already taken care of the hard part. Go to balanceofnature.com and get a free fiber and spice supplement, plus 35% off your first set as a new preferred customer by using discount code POD.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is The More Money Show. Thanks so much for joining on Thanksgiving weekend. One of the guys who is bountiful in terms of his knowledge of the economy and somebody who has really been quite an aspirational figure for me is the great Steve Forbes. I mean, I can't think of anybody better to talk to on this. I want to just tell you that Steve Forbes is someone who has been my mentor, actually, with along with Art Laffer, and he is. I always say that there's not any very few presidential candidacies that have had so much impact on public policy as Steve Forbes when he ran for president in, I believe it was 1996 and 2000. And Steve Forbes put all these ideas out there, like medical savings accounts and like term limits for politicians and like personal accounts for Social Security. And of course, maybe the most important one of all was the idea of a flat tax. And regular listeners to this station know that I feel passionately about making the tax system simpler, more pro-growth, fairer, and more understandable. And the way to do that, folks, is to have a flat tax with a postcard tax return that everybody understands, does not put America at disadvantage. It puts our companies on a level playing field with other countries so we can create more jobs here. My first guest is Steve Forbes, the great economist, the man who ran for president and changed America with his ideas on everything from Social Security personal accounts to medical savings accounts to term limits to all of these amazing, of course, the flat tax. So Steve Forbes, thanks for joining this afternoon.
Good to be with you. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving and ate all the things you shouldn't have eaten.
Too much of it, Steve, too much. So thank you for joining. So my first question is about the issue of affordability. This is kind of a new word in the lexicon of economics. And people are complaining about the cost of things. I get that, although when I graduated from college, Steve, back in the early 80s, I remember we had 11% inflation. Right now we have inflation about 3%, but people are angry. Why?
Well, they're angry because the word affordability is another word for inflation, for a higher cost of living. And that's got people upset. The cost of health care is going up. Yeah. A lot of items at the grocery store are going up. College education is going up. People wondering whether it's worth the cost. So people are not in a good mood. The Democrats are trying to pretend that Trump in 10 months, when especially in terms of regulation, what the Obama years did.
Right. All of those things dramatically increase prices. I think the most obvious one, Steve Forbes, is what has happened with healthcare costs, which have exploded. You know, I've seen numbers that since we passed the quote Affordable Care Act, that in most areas healthcare costs have doubled and even some cases tripled.
It has. And that's why we need the Republicans have to stop avoiding this issue and come up with, I think, free market fixes for it. For example, health savings accounts.
Yes.
Should the barriers should be removed on that?
By the way, Steve, you started talking about that 25 years ago or 30 years ago,
Yes.
and it's an idea whose time has come.
It has come. We have a variation of it now, but there's still too many restrictions on it,
Right.
including telemedicine, mental health.
Can you explain to people, Steve, what is it? A lot of people don't even know what a health savings account is. How does it work?
Well, now is that the employer provides it for most people, and you can make contributions, or the employer can make contributions tax-free, and it gives you control of the money to spend as you see fit. The problem is that you're fixed in terms of the health care plan that the employer offers, and so those kind of restrictions should be removed. So HSA should be fully portable. You should be able to use it for services easily outside of networks and the like. In other words, trying to do with healthcare with education savings accounts are starting to use in parental control of education, where the parents, and in this case the patients, control the money, not the employer. And what we should have is the employer simply offering a variety of plans like they do for retirement, and you make the choice. As you know, because you've seen it yourself, in the federal government, they have literally scores of different health care plans that you can choose from. Why not do that nationwide? And so in terms of that would be a good thing.
By the way, on the health savings...
For catastrophic, real catastrophic insurance, just one little thing on that. A typical family plan now costs $27,000 a year. If you went to family, and said for $7,000 or $8,000, you can have a plan where above a $7,000 or $8,000 level, everything is covered 100%.
Yes,
and you get to keep the $20,000. How many do you think would go for the old?
I'm raising my hand.
Pocketing the $20,000. You know what most people would do, and you start to have a real free market in healthcare.
What a concept. I mean, isn't it interesting, Steve? It's something you and I have talked about over the years. And by the way, I should have mentioned that Steve Forbes is also the co-founder of Unleash Prosperity with Larry Kudlow and myself and Art Laffer. And of course, Larry Kudlow abandoned us to work for the president. Jeez whiz. And then his priorities straight there. But so thank you for all this work you've done for Unleash Prosperity. But isn't it interesting, Steve? It's a point I've made so many times over the years on this show, that the two areas where we've runaway costs are healthcare and education. And those, who runs those industries?
You bet. When the government's involved, you pay more and get less. Right. You have inferior products and services, inferior choices, and then they blame free markets and demand more government control.
So, Steve, we have to take a quick break. Can I hold you over for one more segment? Because I would like to ask you about why we can't move towards personal accounts for Social Security, because we now have Dow at 47,000. And imagine if young people had invested their Social Security money in that. Could I hold you over for one more?
Sure.
Okay, we'll be right back. That's Steve Forbes. This is The More Money Show.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Hey, this is Bill Simmons from the Bill Simmons Podcast, here to tell you that Michelob Ultra, the official beer partner of the NBA, is bringing NBA fans closer than ever this season with chances to win great prizes, including courtside tickets. Enter now at MichelobUltra.com/courtside. Michelob Ultra Courtside 25 to 26. No purchase necessary. Open to U.S. residents 21 plus. Begins on October 1st, 2025 and ends on June 30th, 2026. Multiple entry periods. See official rules at MichelobUltra.com/courtside for free entry deadlines, prizes, and details.
'Tis the season for all your holiday favorites, like A Very Jonas Christmas Movie and Home Alone on Disney+.
Should I burn down the tree? I don't think so.
Then Hulu has National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
We're all in for a very big Christmas treat.
All of these and more streaming this holiday season. And right now, save big with our special Black Friday offer. Bundle Disney Plus and Hulu for just $4.99 a month for 1 year. Savings compared to current regular monthly price. Ends 12/1. Offer for ad-supported Disney Plus Hulu bundle only. Then $12.99 a month or then current regular monthly price. 18 plus terms apply.
The More More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Welcome back, folks. This is the More Money Show. We have just a few minutes left with my hero, Steve Forbes. So let's get right into it. So, Steve, you are the expert on monetary policy, along with my good friend Judy Shelton, and I'm a big fan of Kevin Hassett and some of the others that are being considered for the next Fed chairmanship. What should the Fed, if you were the Fed chairman, and I would love to see you be the Fed chairman, what are some of the first things that you would do? Because we've had this, herky-jerky monetary policy with the dollar up and down, inflation up and down. It's hard to run an economy when you don't know what things cost.
Well, that's right. They forget, and it's true of most central bankers, they forget that money measures value, like a scale measures weight or a clock measures time. And when you have an unstable dollar, you get a subpar economy, and you get troubles like inflation. So the first thing a Fed head should do is announce that henceforth they're abandoning the false idea that prosperity causes inflation, and instead they're going to focus on a stable value for the dollar and not try to manipulate the economy. They should also announce that they're no longer going to set interest rates. That's a form of rent control. Rent control is about renting an apartment. In monetary policy, it's about the cost of renting money. And the Fed's controlling that has really distorted the markets. So let the markets work. Stable dollar, free markets, and you would see a much, much healthier financial market. And I think you'd see a much healthier economy when people could learn to trust the dollar again. And by the way, a trustworthy dollar would stop all this jabber about the BRICS, these countries that want an alternative to the dollar. That would be stopped in its tracks because people would go to Uncle Sam versus Beijing.
So the stable dollar idea is a great point. I mean, that's what you want from your monetary policy. It's why you have a currency, right? To be to hold its value. And so the question, of course, is how do you create the stable dollar? I've always been in favor of some kind of price rule, like follow what's happening with commodities, or I know you've been a strong fan of making the dollar, adjusting it relative to the price of gold. So if you keep the price of gold stable, you're going to have a stable dollar, right? Yes,
gold, there's a ton of misunderstanding about gold. In this case, it's simply like a measuring stick, a yardstick.
Right.
And it's not perfect, but it's worked better for 4,000 years than anything else. So it's very basic. If the gold price is going up, it's not so much the value of gold going up, but the dollar going down.
Right.
So if it starts to go up, you stop printing too much money. If it's going down, you start printing more money. In essence, that's it. And when people realize that you're serious about it, that you're listening to the market, you'll see a huge change. So right now, there's no way we could have a formal gold standard. One, they wouldn't know how to run it. But we could do what Greenspan did for a few years back in the 1990s, when he openly said he looked at the gold price and some commodity prices, determine monetary policy. And then he unfortunately abandoned that in the early 2000s. It led to the disaster of 2007 and 8 and 9. But let the market be your guide.
So, Steve, there's one big problem with what you're proposing. Do you know what that is?
It means less power for certain people.
Exactly.
But you think about it. Everyone accepts.
What are those 300 PhD economists over at the Fed? What are they going to do?
Well, they'd make excellent Uber drivers. Do something useful, and just think of it for a moment, Steve.
Yeah,
how preposterous it is, how everyone accepts the idea that it's okay for the Fed to try to stimulate or depress the economy, depending on its vision on inflation. It's ideas where inflation is going. That's the Soviet Union. Why should they be trying to manipulate the economy? It's preposterous, and it's done us immense harm over the years, and that's one of the reasons why we have an affordability crisis.
Yeah. So part of it, of course, is of course the problem we have with money, and the Fed has done. Like, by the way, what grade would you give Jerome Powell as the Fed chairman? I would probably give him charitably a C- or D, but what grade would you give him?
Yeah, today you're not allowed to give anyone below an A-.
That's right. Yeah, that's called grade inflation, right?
Yeah, well, it's infected everything, including grades mean sadly less and less. But I'd give him a D-.
Me too.
And I'd flunk him. I'd give him a mild flunk. He seems like a nice guy. Would make a great dinner partner at a dinner party, and. So I'd give him an F+, not a straight F.
F+. So do you have a favorite for the Fed chairmanship? I'm a big fan of Kevin Warsh. I think Kevin Hassett would do a good job. I think Judy Shelton would do a good job. I think a regular on this show, David Malpass, would be a good job. And by the way, another person I think would do a great job is Steve Forbes.
Well, I'm an agitator now, so. But you mentioned some good names. Judy, she should be on the board already. She was sabotaged by then Senator Mitt Romney.
Yep.
And David Malpass, he knows the Fed inside out. If he doesn't become head of the Fed, chairman of the Fed, what they should do is make him head of the New York Fed. Yes. Which is the most important of the Federal Reserve regional banks. He'd be excellent there. But he would make an excellent Fed head because he understands things, and there's no way they could buffalo him. I wouldn't rule out yet the possibility of Scott Bessent ending up on the Fed. I think he's the kind of person who could quickly learn what the mistakes of the Fed have been and do things that conventional economists would not think of doing, like going for what Greenspan did for a while in the mid-1990s. And I think he has the authority, success in the private sector, now knows all too well government, and would not be pushed around by the Fed. That's what happened to poor Powell, is he just got enveloped like spiders in like a fly in the web.
So when we were talking, you mentioned earlier, and I mentioned earlier, this idea of some kind of price rule, et cetera. And if you look back at the record of Paul Volcker, who was the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board in the I think late 70s through the mid 80s, he really used prices of commodities and gold as his indicator of where we should be on. And
yeah, he did, and so we've had some periods where we had what you might call a half-baked or sloppy gold standard, but it was far better than the mess we see today, where the Fed still thinks that, wages are going up too much, we must depress the economy, and that kind of nonsense. And, whenever the economy does well, the Fed always says, we have to worry about overheating. I just ask your listeners to ask themselves a basic question. If they start to do well, their incomes are going up, do they start sweating at night? They start feeling they're overheating because they're earning more money. Right. It's just preposterous.
So, Steve, when I first came to Washington 40 years ago, we had a Dow of 1,000. Now we have a Dow of 47,000, which is incredible. 4,700% increase in the value of equities. What a shame it is we didn't do what you suggest, starting in the 1980s and then in the 90s, allowing young workers to put their payroll tax money into an account like a 401k and become owners of companies.
That's right. You get some good index with low cost, which they're now pennies now, and you'll do. You've seen the studies 3 to 5 times more in retirement than you get now. And even if you just go for CDs, or you'll get double what you get now. And the thing is, as you just touched on, you own it. You decide your retirement age, not the Washington politicians. And if there's money left in your account when you leave this world, you can leave it to your kids, your family, whatever, but it's your property. And can you imagine, just a quick thing before we go, a young person starts to work part-time job, and they start getting these, and they start learning what capital is. and knowing that these accounts are not a gift to politicians,
right?
What that does to their mindset. Positive.
It's almost too logical. I mean, it's the ultimate free lunch. Everybody is better off. And by the way, we have run some of these numbers, Steve. If we had done what you suggested, 35 or so years ago, we'd have pension millionaires. And yes, we would have everybody own a piece of the rock, and we wouldn't have wealth inequality because everybody would be rich.
Yes, and that's the thing about Americans. They're not envious. They just want to know that they're having a chance to move ahead. And They don't worry if Bill Gates is doing well or not.
So, Steve, could you run for president again? And in 2000, what's the next election? We have 28, and then run on this idea because it is so important for my kids. It's too late for me. It's too late for you, but it's not too late for our kids and grandkids.
That's right. And so I'm an agitator now. And so the two of us are going to have to continue working together to educate these would-be presidents and Fed heads and the like.
Thank you, Steve Forbes. Appreciate you taking some time on this Thanksgiving weekend, and have a great rest of your weekend. And folks, this is the More Money Show. We'll be right back.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Dripping in gold? That's cool. Dripping in Velveeta's supremely creamy golden cheesiness? That's respect. Elevate your drip with Velveeta's range of outrageously delicious dips and dishes. Shells, cheese, melty blocks, and heat and eat queso that go all in on indulgence. Flex on your fam with a creamy, cheesy masterpiece and go all in on what you love with Velveeta. Respect the drip and satisfy your cravings. Bring home the drip with Velveeta.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
It's not a very efficient healthcare system at all, and it's pricing a lot of Americans right out of the market. Phil Kerpen works with me at Unleash Prosperity as our healthcare expert. He is also the president of American Commitment. Phil Kerpen, thanks for joining.
Hey, my pleasure, Steve.
Okay, so we have not solved the healthcare problem at all. We just kicked the can into 2026, and it looks like there may be another shutdown over what we're going to do about healthcare. Phil, let me just ask you a big, broad question. What should we do about the stampeding cost of healthcare?
Well, I think that we need to have a functioning market. We need to have real price signals, and we need to have real competition and choice. And we've destroyed it in healthcare. And we've got some policies that have driven massive consolidation. So in a lot of places now, you basically have one or maybe two hospital systems that have consolidated basically all the doctors and nurses to be employees. You've got a handful of giant insurance companies that own the pharmacy benefit managers. And everything's become extremely vertically integrated with very little meaningful.
Which is another way of saying bureaucracy.
Yeah, super bureaucracy. We basically have everything in healthcare now runs through basically one, two, or three bureaucracies, often all three: a government bureaucracy, a health system bureaucracy, and an insurance bureaucracy. And sometimes they disagree with each other, and everything becomes a nightmare and very confusing. And
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Experience a membership that backs what you're building with American Express Business Platinum. Unlock over $3,500 in business and travel value annually with statement credits on select purchases from brands like Dell, Hilton, and Adobe, and other benefits. American Express Business Platinum. There's nothing like it. Based on total potential value of statement credits on select purchases and other benefits, enrollments required, monthly and other limits and terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-platinum.
With new, gentler scented Clorox disinfecting wipes, clean finally smells as good as it feels. On everything from lamps to ceiling fans. Even on your kid's toy shark. Oh, ouch. Clorox disinfecting wipes, now available in Ooh, crisp lemon. Find it on Amazon. Clorox, clean feels good.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
My next guest is somebody I wanted to talk about Thanksgiving with, and that is, of course, John Catsimatidis, who is the owner of this radio station, WABC, which, as you know, I say it every week. This is the number one talk radio station in these United States. John is the owner of the station. He's completely turned it around. What, John? 5 hours of live radio on Saturday.
Well, I tell you, Steve, you get the best economic lessons between Larry Kudlow and Steve Moore.
So, John, you were this week. Every time I turned around, you and Margot are passing out turkeys. You help feed the people who are in need. I'm just saluting you for your, you're such a compassionate guy. And a lot of people don't know that side of John Catsimatidis, but you're an amazing philanthropist. And thank you so much for what you did this Thanksgiving for so many hundreds. How many turkeys did you guys hand out?
Well, 5,000 turkeys went out to feed. The 20,000 kids for the Police Athletic League, we gave those turkeys out so the kids from the inner city can have a happy Thanksgiving and not and they feel like somebody cares about them.
Right,
and they're the future of America. They're the future of New York.
You know, I saw some of those photos from last weekend and this week, and so many cute kids. I mean, 5 and 6 year olds with just the biggest smiles on their face. You really made their Thanksgiving.
Well, if you can see I'm going to text you later on some of the pictures of the kids and their faces,
amazing.
And it really touches your heart. You know what the holidays is all about, Steve? It's about touching your heart, going into from Thanksgiving, going into Christmas, going into the New Year's, to feel that you have done something to help our fellow man.
Yes. Well, because, we always say there, but by the grace of God goes me. And so you're helping so many people. And by the way, one of my favorite sayings, and I forget who said it, you may know, it says, "No, a man never stands so tall as when he reaches down to help a child."
Well, you know something? They're our future. And no matter what's going on in the world, no matter what evils are going on in the world, these kids don't know of any of that stuff. And we just want them to feel good. And like most of us try to have a good life growing up. We want them to have a good life growing up.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. Everybody wants the American dream. And boy, by the way, Catsimatidis, as you know, John, I've always found that to be a tongue twister. Are you Italian? Are you Greek? What's that? What nationality is that?
I'm 28% Italian. I'm 60% Macedonian Greek, and I am 6% Jewish.
And you're 100% American.
And I'm 100% American. Maybe 110.
110, I know. Okay, so I wanted to talk to you about a little bit of economics. Can I do that with you?
Absolutely.
Okay, so you are the owner of grocery stores and have really been so successful in that among many other industries. So Mayor Zoran, who is coming in to be the next mayor of New York City, he wants to do two things that I thought were interesting, and I'd like your comments about both of them. First of all, he talks about maybe having government-run grocery stores, which as a free marketeer, that makes me cringe a little bit. And then he said something the other day about not letting grocery stores go out of business. And I'm like, well, how can they stay in business if they're not making money? But what do you think about all those ideas?
Well, somebody has to pay at the end of the day. Either the taxpayer pays, either the customer pays. Somebody has to pay. There's nothing free in the world. And anybody that thinks there's free in the world, come over to my office. I'll sell you the Brooklyn Bridge.
Well, that's right. And so, are you nervous as a government competing with your grocery stores? And what's he going to do? Open up government-run grocery stores in New York City and Manhattan and Brooklyn?
Well, I'm not nervous, and it is what it is. Look, we run a completely union shop. They have to make sure they're a union shop. They have to make sure that it depends how they want to do the books. You can't really necessarily fight City Hall because if they don't want to pay taxes and it's part of the city, who in City Hall is going to stop them? If they don't want to pay, that's what it comes down to.
So true. So the young people, you hire a lot of young Americans in your many businesses, John. And I hear people say, the young people, and I don't know if this is true or not. So as somebody who's a major employer in the city, are the young people that you employ, are they coming? Are they ready to work? Are they fit to work? Do they have the skills that you need?
We've never had a problem. We've owned Gristides and we've owned the supermarkets for 54 years. We've never had a problem getting people to work.
Right, good, and they're high quality workers.
Well, they are a lot of immigrants, a lot of Latinos, a lot of blacks, a lot of New York City is the melting pot of the world.
Sure is.
And we hire everybody, and it's about taking care of our inner cities, taking care of the people that need jobs.
So one of the reasons I love doing this show is I know one of the people who occasionally listen to this show, not maybe as much as he used to, is Donald J. Trump. And I know he's a big fan of yours, and I know the feeling is likewise. If you were to meet with Donald Trump, and I know you talk to him frequently, and you were to give him some advice, because there is this quote, and I'm using this in quote, affordability crisis, what would you advise Donald Trump to do to either raise the wages of the workers or lower costs so people, could buy the things that they need?
Well, right now, we, according to President Trump, that pardoned 2 turkeys on Wednesday afternoon or Tuesday afternoon. Yeah, right. And you know what I said? The Prime Minister Carney of Canada should have pardoned those ostriches that they killed. President Trump. Yeah, he says the price of turkeys went down. But in the New York area, the price of turkeys went up. So we have a pending investigation going on. Why did the rest of the country turkeys go down? And why did they go up in New York?
Well, maybe one reason is because taxes are higher and cost of living is higher and everything's more expensive in New York. But
what does that have to do with the wholesalers? The turkeys are not raised in Manhattan.
That's true. It's a good question.
Yeah, they come from farms.
So your relationship remains very good with Donald Trump, right?
Well, we've known each other for 45, 50 years.
Wow. And so you probably argue like brothers, but I happen to think that this guy is doing an amazing job in Washington.
There is nobody that has worked harder as president than Donald Trump.
I couldn't agree more. And are you like Larry Kudlow and myself? Are you optimistic for 2026?
I am very, very optimistic for 2026. He's brought back to America over $20 trillion worth of investments. That's going to create jobs and it's going to create products being manufactured in America again instead of products being manufactured overseas.
Yeah, great point. Now, last thing I wanted to ask you about, because it's important to our listeners, because we have so many loyal listeners to this station. Incidentally, you do the Cats Roundtables at 5 p.m. every weeknight, right?
5 to 6 o'clock every weeknight night. I welcome the fact that you're on, or most of the time. I love doing that show. You have the best guests on that show. I know, because you've got it's the Katz and Cosby show, and you're both great, and then you have amazing guests on that show, and the roundtable is fantastic. So congratulations on the success of that show and the station generally. I'm going to ask you a question I've asked before on this show, but for new listeners, I want them to hear your answer. A lot of people say, that talk radio is dead and that the AM radio is dead, and this is not something that you would want to invest in. You've invested in it. You've really turned it around. What is the future for AM radio? Well, if Congress does the right thing, AM radio is forever. So we're waiting to see what happens with Congress over the next 6 to 12 weeks. They're supposed to pass a bill saying that AM radio, because it's part of the national broadcasting system, it's part of emergency broadcasting system for FEMA, that it should be in the cars, in every car being put out, that you should have AM radio available.
I love that idea. And what is the key to the success of this station over the last, I don't know, how long have you been running now? 5, 6, 7 years? I've lost track of time.
5 years. Yeah. And the key is we tell the truth.
What a concept in the meeting, tell the truth. I love that. Well, John, you are a national hero, a national treasure. Thank you to you and Margot. I know she's the one who is your guiding light for what you've done for New York City, both in terms of your philanthropic activities and your great businesses. And I don't have the song, but the theme song of John Catsimatidis. You know it, John. Happy days are here again.
Well, there used to be the Democratic song. Right now, it should be all American song because Donald Trump is president. Happy days are here again. Jobs are coming back to America. The price of oil and gasoline has gone down. Yes, and we've stopped the migrants from invading us because we believe in immigration. We don't believe in legal invasion.
Right. So well put. Well, John, thanks so much for coming on. Let's hope 2026 is the blockbuster year that you think it will be. And I'm pretty confident that you're 100% correct. And John Catsimatidis and his wonderful wife, Margot, who I'm sorry, I have a real love for Margot, even more than you, John. So great to be with you, and have a great rest of your weekend.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
The Hyundai Getaway Sales Event is on now with awesome deals on their most popular models, including adventure-ready SUVs like the Hyundai Santa Fe and Santa Fe Hybrid. There's also the stylish Elantra, packed with the latest tech, or go electric with the Ioniq 5 or Ioniq 6. Visit HyundaiUSA.com or call 562-314-4603 for more details. Offers in January 5th, 2026.
This episode is brought to you by Nature's Bounty. Nature's Bounty believes your body is brilliant, naturally designed to thrive, inside and out. For those always looking for new ways to support your health from head to heels, Nature's Bounty has a range of over 400 vitamins and supplements born from 50 years of trust and care. Nature's Bounty. It's in your nature. Visit naturesbounty.com to learn more.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
By the way, if you realize, I just noticed this watching some of the advertisements over the last 4 or 5 days on the TV shows, that it's no longer, it wasn't Black Friday. It's now Black Friday week. So people started doing their Christmas shopping now. They did it back last Monday was when people started doing their Christmas shopping. And so I remember when Black Friday came about, when people, the stores would open up on midnight on after Thanksgiving. And now it starts on the Monday before Thanksgiving. And so hope you got some of your Christmas shopping done. One last point I want to make on the show this week is talking a little bit about this issue of the IRS, because Trump needs a new head of the IRS. He's had 4 or 5 of them. And I have had my problems with the IRS. I think I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of you have not had problems with the IRS. They put liens on my property, liens on my bank account. Just recently, my wife said that the state of Maryland said we owed them $7,000. We don't owe them $7,000, but that's what they're claiming. And so they put a freeze on our bank accounts, which, by the way, how does the government have the authority to do that? This is America, damn it. And I don't think that the government should be able to go into my bank accounts and take my money from me. But that's what they were trying to do. And the IRS has tried to do that many times to me. And by the way, I pay my taxes. You may know the story that when I was up to be nominated to be on the Federal Reserve Board, the New York Times put on the front page of their paper that Steve Moore doesn't pay his taxes. He's a tax cheat because the IRS had a lien against me for $50,000. And it turned out, I don't know if you guys know the rest of this story, but when the whole thing was over, it turned out that I was owed $50,000 from the IRS. I didn't owe the IRS $50,000. And they never apologized, right? They just sent me a check saying, whoops, we made a mistake. So here's the point about the IRS. We need to have a simple tax system. I've said that 1,000 times on this show. It has to be comprehensible, or people will cheat on their taxes because they don't understand it. So why wouldn't you just, pay what you think you owe? But the more important point is, when I was owed $50,000, my tax accountant said, Steve, you're right here, and the IRS is wrong, but you should just pay the money, because he said it's going to cost you more money to fight them, and you'll probably lose in court because the deck is stacked against you. So just pay the money. It was like confiscation. And I said, hell no, I don't care how much it's cost. I'm not going to pay these jerks more money because they make a false allegation against me about how much they owe. And it did cost me a lot of money, but in the end, I turned out to be right. And they never apologized. They said, oops, we made a mistake. Here's your $50,000 after they garnished my wages and frozen my bank account. This is happening in America, folks. This is the United States of America, and the power of the government is to do this. So I want the IRS to be defanged. I do not believe they should. We have rights as Americans, and it's not suspended when you're in a dispute with the IRS. All the IRS thugs think that you do have no rights in tax court. And so here's what I want to do. And I'm going to try to get this message over to Donald Trump. I know sometimes he listens to this show and listens to this radio show station. Mr. President, we need to make sure that in tax court you are innocent until proven guilty. Because that's the way it is in every other court, but not in tax court. Many of you have been through these trying times, as I have been, when you've got a tax dispute with the IRS. You are literally guilty until you prove yourself innocent. So the presumption of guilt is on you, not the IRS. And that's a big, high hurdle to clear. So I want President Trump to say, no, we're going to reverse that burden of proof. If the government is going to sue you, the government has to prove that they are right and you're right. You don't have to prove your innocence in this country. They have to prove your guilt. The other thing I would like to see the president do in terms of reforming IRS. So number one is change the presumption of guilt. Number two, change the tax system. It's simple and understandable. And number three, if you go to tax court and you win against the IRS should not only pay you the interest on the money that they took from you illegally, but they should also pay your legal bills. Now, that would stop the harassment of the IRS against lawful Americans like I have most of the time. I'm not a perfect person, but I do follow the laws, and I don't cheat on my taxes, even though the IRS seems like every other year is coming after me. Do you think that might be because I'm a conservative and a Trump guy? Do you think maybe that's why? Because I know a lot of people under Joe Biden who are harassed by the IRS because of their political party. That should not happen in America. That's banana republic legal system, and Trump has to fix that. This is The More Money Show, folks.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can find options that fit your budget and potentially lower your bills. Try it at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states.
Chronic spontaneous urticaria, or chronic hives with no known cause. It's so unpredictable. It's like playing pinball. Itchy, red bumps start on my arm, then my back. Sometimes my legs. Hives come out of nowhere. And it comes and goes. But I just found out about a treatment option at treatmyhives.com. Take that, chronic hives. Learn more at treatmyhives.com.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I had something like 20 relatives over at my brother's house for Thanksgiving. We had a wonderful, wonderful time. It's always wonderful. Nothing better than getting together with your family. So I want to turn to our what I call our potpourri segment of the show, where we just talk about a bunch of issues that I want you to be aware of. And incidentally, almost all of these issues I want to talk to you about are covered in our hotline, what we call the Unleashed Prosperity Hotline. You've got to get that, folks. Just go to unleashedprosperity.com and click on Hotline. We'll deliver this to your email 5 mornings a week, and I think you'll love it. We have Newt Gingrich says it's the first thing he reads every morning. We know the people in the White House read it, CEOs read it. One of our readers emailed me the other day, said, Steve, this is my caffeine in the morning, and he was talking about the outline that we put out at Unleashed Prosperity. So get it. It's free. Why wouldn't you want something that's free, especially in this area where people talk about affordability? You can't find anything that's more affordable than something that is free. So a few of the issues that we brought up in the hotline this week, and I'm just going to go over these very quickly. One of them, a fascinating headline in USA Today. And USA Today, which is a liberal publication, I had to read it because I was in a hotel staying overnight, and the only newspaper they had that morning was the USA Today. They have a good sports page, but other than that, not so good. And anyway, the headline on the front page of the USA Today was that more people die from cold weather than warm weather. And I said, wow, that's interesting. I mean, I've only been saying that for 30 years, and now we even have the USA Today saying that. So if this is the case, then a slight warming of the planet would lead to fewer deaths, not more deaths. In other words, if they are right that there is global warming going on, then that would be a positive thing. What the study showed was that I think it was over the last 30 or 40 years, which is just a nanosecond in the history of time on this planet. But just looking over the last 30 or 40 years, when a lot of the CO2 has been emitted into the atmosphere, there is no question there has been a slight warming of temperatures. I think it's about 1 degree, 1 or 1.5 degrees, which is not insignificant. But what the study showed is that twice as many people die from cold weather as warm weather. So the death rate from blizzards and freezing cold temperatures and illnesses that are associated with cold weather, twice as high as when the weather gets warmer. By the way, we know people prefer warmer weather than colder weather because where are people moving to? They're moving to states like Florida. They're moving to places like the Carolinas. They're moving to places like Texas where the weather is warmer. And so what we're seeing is this migration of people to southern states. Now, a lot of that is due to economic policy, but some of it is due to the weather being nicer. People, if you had to live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or Minneapolis, Minnesota, which would you choose? Well, I know where I would want to be in January, February, and March. So I think this is a fascinating admission by the left that all of their warnings, oh my God, the globe is warming. Oh, we're all going to die. By the way, agriculture output is much, much higher in places with warm climates than cold climates. And so if you want to feed the world, having a warmer climate is going to, be a greening of the planet and allow more vegetation and more food to be grown. So I'm for a stable climate. But if it has to move one direction or another, I'd rather have it being a little warmer than a little colder. And the studies show that will save lives. Incidentally, if you notice, they used to call it global warming. They don't call it anymore global warming. Now they call it climate change, because that means anytime there's any weather event anywhere, a tornado, a hurricane, an earthquake, a flood, a drought, whatever it is, it's all climate change. Have you noticed that? So it becomes a disprovable theory, because no matter what the temperature is, no matter what's happening, I mean, the same people say, oh my God, there's a drought in Africa, say, oh, that's climate change. And then when they, oh my God, there's flooding in Mississippi, oh my God, that's climate change. I mean, these things have been going on for hundreds of thousands of years on this planet. And so at least we now have the left conceding that cold weather is worse for your health than warm weather. The second one I want to bring up is coffee. So you may have seen that Donald Trump has reduced the tariff on coffee, which is a good thing because coffee prices went way, way up when the 50% tariffs were put on the Brazilian coffee beans. And so people were complaining about how expensive coffee was with the tariffs. And so Trump has agreed to either suspend or lower those tariffs. I say, well done, Mr. President, because it is true at a relative price level. I'm not talking about overall inflation, but if you put a tax on coffee and a tariff is a tax on coffee, then there's no question about it that some portion of that tax or tariff will be borne by the consumer. And that's exactly what we saw. So when you went to Starbucks or you went to any other, either get ground coffee from the store or you went to one of the coffee shops, you were paying more. And this is an example of how tariffs do cost consumers more money. Now, if you have, that doesn't mean overall the price level goes up because other things may go down in price as coffee prices go up. But there's an economics lesson here that as soon as Trump put the tariffs on coffee, the price went up. And then guess what happened last week when the tariffs went off? The prices went down. So yes, tariffs do cost consumers. And that's one of the reasons, among many, that I'm a free trader. I do believe in a level playing field, and I think Trump is trying to accomplish that. But it is amazing how fast prices adjust to these differing tax levels when it comes to tariffs. And that's why I think the best tariff in the world is just to have free trade. Free trade, every country lowers their tariffs to zero. Boy, would that be a wonderful thing. Next thing I wanted to bring up was this issue of what's happened to the stock market. And I mentioned earlier in the show that as we move very close to Dow 50,000, we're roughly at Dow 47,000 right now. And I mentioned that back when I got started in my career, the Dow was at 1,000. So over about 45 years, we've gone from 1,000 to 46,000. So I asked my assistants at Unleashed Prosperity to run the numbers. If we have the same rate of growth in the Dow Jones over the next 40 years, what would the economy look like? And I mean, what would the Dow Jones Industrial Average look at? And it's kind of amazing. So I asked, at what year will we get to Dow 50,000? And it is expected that either late this year or early next year we'll hit Dow 50,000. I feel pretty confident that that's going to happen. Then when would we hit Dow 100,000? Dow 100,000. Remember, it was once at 1,000 just 40 years ago. We would hit Dow 100,000 in the year 2034. And then when would we hit Dow 500,000? When would we hit Dow 500,000 if we stay on the course we're on? And I think there's no reason we can't do that. By around the year 2053, we'll be at 500,000. And this is maybe most amazing of all. By the year 2061, I very, very seriously doubt that I will be alive in 2061. But if I do live to the year 2061, we will be at Dow 1 million. Now, what's my point? Stocks for the long run. If you want to make money, invest your money early and often into the stock market because the returns, we've been growing at a 9% rate of return on the stock market for the last 100 years, and there's no reason we can't continue that. You want to get rich in this country, you want to own things, and when you own things, you want to own businesses, and one way to own businesses is to buy stock. I'm a big believer in that. I'm not saying put all your money in stocks. What I'm saying is, I like the formula that you buy. If you're 20 years old, you should have 80% of your money in stocks. If you're 30 years old, you should have 70%. If you're 80 years old, you have 20%. So it'd be the inverse of your age should be the percentage you put in the stock market, because stock market is volatile in the short term, as we learned in 2000 and in 2008. Obviously in 1929 when the market crashed. But over the long term, there's no better place to put your money than the United States stock market. And I think that will continue to be true. You want to make money, become an owner. You want to become an owner, take 15 or 20% of every paycheck you earn. If you're a young person, I want you to try to do this. Take 15 or 20% of every paycheck, put it in an index fund. You don't even have to know anything about the stock market. Just put it in an index fund, and you will make a lot of money.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Transform your home during Blinds.com's Cyber Monday Super Sale. Get up to 50% off site-wide, plus huge doorbuster deals on popular styles. Go DIY and do it all 100% online, or choose white glove service with expert design help and professional installation. Both backed by Blinds.com's 100% satisfaction guarantee. Blinds.com's Cyber Monday Super Sale is here. Save up to 50% site-wide and get a free professional measure. Limited time offer, rules and restrictions apply. See Blinds.com for details.
The More Money Show with Steve Moore.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network.
I'm going to, if I may, just read a little bit to you about my latest column that I wrote for Thanksgiving weekend. And I think you'll learn a lot from it, and I'd like to get feedback. I'd love to hear from you folks, by the way, when you tell me what you like and what you don't like about the show, how you think it could be improved. I love when people call in and tell me they disagree with me. I learned so much from listening to our listeners. By the way, next week we will be live and in color once again. But the name of this column I put on was called, they asked me to write a column about America at 250, because as you know, we'll be 250 years old starting on January 1st of next year. And so the title of this column is America is Great Again. America is Great Again. And let me just read a little bit of it to you, because I'd like you it's a nice way to reflect on where we are today as a country and where we are headed and where we've been. And so I'm just going to read a little bit from this column that was in Newsmax. And if you want to get it, you can pull it up on Newsmax. But here it goes. There's an old saying that the past remembers better than it lived. The past remembers better than it lived. And that's natural. We always remember the wonderful times we had as youth, when it never seemed to rain and everything was always sunny skies every day, or at least that's the way we remember things. And then I think about that truism a lot lately, with polls showing that young Americans are pessimistic about the American economy. That is, people between the ages of 18 and 34. They feel everything from healthcare to housing is too expensive, and that capitalism has failed, and that we need more socialism. Here's a dose of reality for that every young person should be aware of. There is no time in history, no time in history, when Americans had more income, more wealth, more choices, and more opportunities than right now in America, circa 2025. Those computers and Ubers and Google searches and electric vehicles and Amazon deliveries and cell phones didn't even exist very long ago. Even air conditioning and dishwashers and washers and dryers were considered extravagances just a couple of generations ago. What about women? Women worked at home doing housework, and most blacks were relegated to menial jobs, and almost all Hispanics were poor. The air and the water was dirtier, and a cancer diagnosis was a death sentence back as recently as 25 or 30 years ago. In 2000, at the turn of the millennium, I wrote a book called, quote, "It's Getting Better All the Time," unquote, about the 100 greatest trends of the 20th century. Almost every single indicator, health, wealth, environment, disposable incomes, showed spectacular improvement in the 20th century America. Now today, I see what has happened since then. Over the last 25 years, the wealth of the country has more than doubled in 25 years. America has become the superpower in the 20th century, became the superpower in the 20th century, but now our lead over the rest of the world has only expanded. We have a magnificent 7 companies, Amazon, Apple, Google, Meta, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and Tesla, that are worth more than all the companies in Europe combined. We are now a nation with an estimated $150 trillion or so of assets and wealth. This will very soon be bequeathed to the millennials and their children, who are now complaining about the state of the world. Will they build on the wealth and heritage of our past generations? Because we have given them this wealth. Will they carry the torch of American freedom and exceptionalism? Will they? I don't know. I hope they do. I expect that they will, but I can't say it with 100% certainty when they all run around talking about how great socialism is. The next generation can and should do this, but it's worrisome that many young people today totally don't even believe in American exceptionalism. They don't. They don't believe that, as Ronald Reagan so eloquently put it, America was put here on this planet as a divine providence and a beacon of freedom for the rest of the world. We are a beacon of freedom. It's the lamp on Lady Liberty. In the 2000s, America came to completely dominate the internet digital age. The combination of good old-fashioned Yankee ingenuity and America's ability to attract the best and the brightest from all over the world has made the USA the alpha male of the world economy. Even as we fall into financial ditches, as happened in 2008 with COVID, in 2008 when we had the mortgage market meltdown, and with COVID in 2020, we managed to pick ourselves up by the metaphorical bootstraps of our country and rebuild and soldier on. We're on a roll in America as we approach our 250th birthday. Yes, there are scary problems out there. Yes, of course there are. They always have been. A $37 trillion debt, the decline of marriage and low birth rates, and the increased social isolation of too many young people as they bury their heads in their computers and live in make-believe worlds. Or they get addicted to computer games. I'm guilty of this partially myself. Yes, we should be worried about China, of course, trying to topple us from our commanding heights as the global leader. Some in Generation Z want to take rather than make and build. Fortunately, we have a president today in Donald J. Trump who fervently does believe in American exceptionalism and the boundless future that lies ahead as we make the 21st century another American century. He understands, that is Donald Trump, that America is not systemically racist, as Joe Biden so unpatriotically demeaned our nation, but instead we are the only truly successful multiracial and multicultural society perhaps ever. We are truly a melting pot of human talent. One key statistic underscores the land of opportunity. Today in America, Asians have the highest incomes, even higher than whites. Hispanics mostly came to America from poverty-stricken nations of Central and South America with little but an astounding work ethic, and now their median household income has shot up to more than $70,000 for Hispanics. And they've only been in this country for 15 or 20 years, no more than 2 generations for most of them. They would be rich in their home country. They would be rich, and they live in America, and now they're in the great middle class of our country. Where else does this happen? Really, truly, where else can you go to make this happen? Not very often in China, not Japan, not Russia, not Europe. Young people also apparently oblivious to the reality that the $100 trillion of wealth that has been created over the last 50 years will be for them. They will have that. That's nearly triple the size of the national debt. They are inheriting the richest, most inventive, and most generous nation in the history of the world on our 250th birthday. Their mission, and I'm talking to young people here, your mission is to keep this long train of prosperity rolling and keeping America number one. Can they do it? Of course they can. They're Americans. They can and they will. And that is my message for this Thanksgiving weekend. We can and we will be number one, but we need the Generation Z and the millennials to step up. It's their turn now. I just turned 65. I hope to work for another 10 years or so, or maybe 15 years, God willing. But pretty soon, my generation, I'm a boomer, we're passing that torch on to the young people. Now, what do they have to do? They have to work hard. They have to get married. They have to have children. Those latter two things, I'm very worried about these trends, folks. The fact that young people are not getting married and they are not having children. A new survey just came out the other day that showed almost half of young people don't even want to get married or don't want to have kids. Well, how can we survive as on a planet? Are the human beings going to be an endangered species if our young people don't have children? I think their attitudes will certainly change, but we need to. By the way, it is our fault as baby boomers that the young people feel this way because we're the ones who have improperly instilled in them the morals and the intelligence to carry on the American tradition, but they will. I am totally confident that this next generation will step up to the plate and keep America great. It helps that we have a president who everything he is doing every single day is making America great. This is an astonishing president. By the way, you know this, folks. I do not always agree with Donald Trump. He gets angry at me when I go on Fox News and sometimes criticize some of his policies. I like to call the balls and strikes as I see them. But 80% of the time, I think he's throwing that ball right down the middle of the plate when it comes to this great economy. It is such an exciting time right now to be alive as we approach our 250th birthday. I cannot wait for July 4th, 2026. It's going to be astounding. It's going to be Monica Crowley, by the way, who's a good friend of mine. She's been on this station and this show many, many times over the years. She's running that program for Donald Trump. It's going to be a hell of a festivity. And we can be proud to be Americans. One final thing on the way out, folks. I took an Uber the other day, Somalian driver, and he had seen me on TV, knew a little bit about me, and we were talking, and what do you think about immigration? He said, well, I love immigrants, but they have to come in the right way. They have to come in, I said, do you have a green card? And he smiled at me and said, I've got my green card. And we chat a little bit longer. And, at the end of our conversation, right before I'm getting out of my car, and I'll never forget this as long as I live, and something you all should not forget. He said to me, he came from Somalia, which is a very poor country. And he said to me, I'm so happy to be in America. I feel so lucky to be here. And then he said, something you Americans don't understand is that everybody in the world wants to come to America. Everybody wants to come here. So if everybody wants to come here, we can't be that terrible of a country, can we? If we're such a racist country, why are people coming from Africa? Why are they coming from Asia? Why are they coming from South America? Because most people in this world, and sometimes the only people who don't realize this are our own children, recognize that America is a flawed country. We're human beings. This isn't heaven on earth, but this is the land of opportunity. This is the land of prosperity. And that torch is going to be passed on to our children, and they will rally. I am convinced of this. They will rally. They will step up, and we will see, as I said earlier on the show, by the year 2060, we will say, sitting down, folks, Dow 1 million. Have a great rest of your weekend, folks.
Thanks for listening to More Money with Steve Moore. You can hear More Money with Steve Moore Saturday afternoons at 1. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder,
what the heck is going on here?
The holidays mean more travel, more shopping, more time online, and more personal info in more places that could expose you more to identity theft. But LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our US-based restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Don't face drained accounts, fraudulent loans, or financial losses alone. Get more holiday fun and less holiday worry with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.